Guitar tips, just the tips, just for you. Guitar tips. Hello and welcome to Guitar Tips. Welcome back, perhaps, if you are a regular here. My name is Adam Levy. This is my weekly video blog channel. I post a new tip here each and every Friday. You can binge watch them if you'd like, and you can also subscribe. There's you may have noticed there's a big red button down below that says subscribe. I'm looking out there because I don't know why I'm looking out there. The subscribe button is down there, so check it out, click on it. It's easy to do, and I hope that you will. This week's guitar tip is brought to you by Martin guitar strings. They are the strings I have right here on this guitar, which also happens to be a Martin guitar. The strings that I like, that they make a bunch of different kinds of steel strings. The ones that I like are, they're called retro, and the winding on them, as you may see, is not all bronzy looking. It's a nickel sort of thing. It's an alloy that they call Monel. But you don't have to know anything about metallurgy or anything like that to appreciate the strings. They sound good, they feel good, they're kind of mellow and also kind of mighty. If you can imagine mighty and mellow in the same string, that's what retro strings are. And this is a 12 gauge set. There's a 12 on top. They make heavier sets as well. Anyway, that's the strings I'm using, and Martin is supporting the show, so thank you to Martin, and I hope that you will check out their strings out there in, I was going to say Radio Land. Wow, not Radio Land, Video Land, out there in Video Land. Okay, without further ado, this week's guitar tip. This week's guitar tip is play a poem. Play a poem. So, how do we play a poem? Poems have words. The guitar doesn't really have words. So what this has to do is with musical phrasing, okay? Excuse me, a couple of my students this week, actually many weeks, all the time, students come to me with phrasing questions, but in particular this week, a couple of my students came in with questions about how to play the guitar, how to phrase on the guitar, meaning, we all practice scales, major scales or, pentatonic scales or whatever you practice. We spend a lot of time getting these scales under our fingers, and when it comes time to make actual music, if that's all you have, that's probably not going to make for a very interesting guitar solo or musical statement or whatever. It just kind of goes up and down, and it's very linear and not particularly, doesn't have a lot of shape to it. There's not a clear beginning, middle, or end, and there's not there's not a lot of shape to it. There's not a contour, not a dynamic to it. So there can be a disconnect between what we practice. We're told you're supposed to practice your scales, and indeed I think you should practice scales. They help get some muscle memory together, that when you want to play some musical ideas, you have some sense of where the layout of the notes are on the neck, and you can coordinate your two hands. I'm not playing with a pick right now. I often don't. But if you are playing with a pick or fingers, whatever, you get your two hands in sync. And there's lots of other good reasons to practice your scales as well. But as you can see, if that's all you practice, then you're limited when somebody says, take it. If this is your take it, they may not say, take it again. So how do we play something that's a little more compelling? And so the seed of this idea is actually something that I discovered many years ago, listening to an album by a jazz saxophone player named John Coltrane. It's an album from the mid-'60s that was a pretty famous record for him. If you listen to jazz, you may be aware of this record. It just has 4 sections to it, and the last section is called Psalm, Psalm. And if you have the LP and you have the, and you take it out, and there's a paper sleeve that the actual disc is in there. There's a prayer written on it, which the first time I saw that I didn't totally understand it. I guess I thought John Coltrane is a spiritual guy. Some people include technical information in the liner notes of a record, where it was recorded, who engineered it, and so on. Some people like to include lyrics in the liner notes of a record, so you can sing along at home or just read along or whatever. But I didn't quite understand why there'd be a prayer. He doesn't have any lyrics. He's not singing. He's playing the saxophone. But then a friend explained to me that Psalm, that 4th movement, if you read the prayer and listen to that movement, you'll see that he's actually playing the saxophone more or less to the words of that prayer. He's saying a prayer on the saxophone. So I've thought about that for many, many years. I myself am not particularly religious, so it didn't really grab me to say a prayer on the guitar. But certainly you could recite a poem on the guitar, whatever your inclinations may be, religious or spiritual or otherwise. Poetry is just poetry, and it would give me a chance to make some music that had some shape to it and wasn't just driven by patterns that I'd memorized, but was actually had some other kind of structure to it. So one poem that I happen to like is a poem by a poet named Rumi, who was a Persian poet from a long, long time ago. His work has been translated by different translators over the years. He didn't write in English. But there's a guy named Coleman Barks who has translated a lot of Rumi's poems into English, and I happen to like Coleman Barks's translations. And here's a poem that I like. It goes like this: "You are sitting here with us, but you are also out walking in a field at dawn. You are yourself the animal we hunt when you come with us on the hunt. You are in your body like a plant is solid in the ground, yet you are wind. You are the diver's clothes lying empty on the beach. You are the fish. In the ocean are many bright strands and many dark strands like veins that are seen when a wing is lifted up. Your hidden self is blood in those veins that are lute strings that make ocean music, not the sad edge of surf, but the sound of no shore." So that's the poem, and I happen to really like it. Maybe I'm biased because they mention lute strings and ocean music. But anyway, so how do you practice that? How do you play that? So let's start with something really simple. This is a C scale in 1 octave. Okay. I'm going to try and play this just using the notes of the scale. You are sitting here with us, but you are also out walking in a field at dawn. You are yourself the animal we hunt ocean are many bright strands, and many dark strands like veins that are seen when a wing is lifted up. Your hidden self is blood in those veins that are root strings that make ocean music, not the sad edge of surf, but the sound of no shore. So that's just one possibility in that scale, in that octave. You could pick a pentatonic scale if that's more your thing. You know, you could play, this is D minor pentatonic. You are sitting here with us, but you are also out walking in a field at dawn. You are yourself, the animal we hunt, when you come with us on the hunt, etc. Takes practice. You might have to do it very slowly. I recommend doing it in a limited range. When I picked the D minor pentatonic already, I felt like my brain getting a little overwhelmed with all the choices. So you might try just playing in one octave in a major scale, or just one octave in a pentatonic scale, or even just like a triad. That's a C triad. You are out sitting here with us, but you are also out walking in a field at dawn. If that's easier for you, that's cool. You want to have there be connection. If you find that your notes are getting away from what's on the page, stop and start over and slow down. And the whole point of this, again, is to have your notes be around something that's not just running up and down, but is actually has a certain kind of structure and cadence built into it already. And then you start to get what that feels like and what that sounds like to play that way. And then that could come out in your playing when you're not thinking about a poem. Now, you may not have the benefit of having a poem in front of you on stage or in the studio every time you're playing the guitar, but you could just look around you and, you know, try and find some simple phrase. I have a poster on my wall there's a band called the Old Crow Medicine Show. So the poster is Gillian Welch with Old Crow Medicine Show. That's not much of a poem, but I could still play it. Let's pick a limitation. So I'm going to pick a G minor triad. Gillian Welch with Old Crow Medicine Show. Gillian Welch with old. I want to get to another note, but we've made a rule that we just have those three notes, so I got to stick with it. Gillian Welch with Old Crow Medicine Show. Gillian Welch with Old Crow Medicine Show. Gillian Welch with Old Crow Medicine Show. Whatever you do, there's no right or wrong. You're just trying to connect an idea of phrasing with what you're playing. If you do have a poem in front of you, or just some text from a book or whatever, really think about the punctuation. If there's a period, don't leave the note ringing. Play a shorter note, because a period is the end of an idea. So stop and pause. A comma could be a place that you pause. How do you play a question mark? I don't know. Think about that. How do you play a question mark? How do you play quotation marks? How do you play a semicolon? I don't know. I don't have the answers to all of those. And even if I did, you should find your own answers to those. That's part of the fun of this doing this kind of practicing and this kind of studying. So play a poem. That is this week's guitar tip. Thanks again to Martin Strings for supporting the show, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Adam Levy. This is Guitar Tips. Stay tuned and take good care.